is. I don't know if it's a big number. It might be 10 more people. It might only be something like that. But the assumption that those who are seniors are always in need is not really correct. There are a lot of young families in dire need, maybe even more so. So for us to address this as we are and negate or neglect those who are in greater need, I feel uncomfortable with that. I mean, I understand our intent. I think, we're looking for the fairness issue, and we want, we don't want the town to be ripped off as we are right now due to the way we're doing it. So I understand that, but if we're going to go one step, we might as well just go to the next step, finalize it. So that would.
I think what you're losing sight of, once again, is age income producers of trash. They're going to be a lower-end producer of trash if those that's elderly or single elderly person in his or her home, low income.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand the intent. I agree with that. I haven't lost sight of that.
That's the original intent.
But
That's as far as I'm willing to go.
I haven't lost sight of that, but I just gave you an example. I'm a family of 4, and I only use 3/4 of a barrel.
I applaud you.
Okay,
Give
well,
you the
that's
green
not
sticker of
that's
the
not
year
the
award.
point. That's not the point. That there are families. It shoots down the argument that what you just described. That example just obliterates what your argument was.
You gave
That's
me
right.
I think
You gave me one example.
we set out to close a hole in a policy. Let's get it closed. You want to bring up some other approach to deal with hardship cases in town, right? Fine.
Which
Come
is
up
the
with an
idea of this whole
idea,
program.
But
No, Mr. Delaney just described to you
No,
what the
the
idea
whole
of.
But
idea
again,
of this
no,
program.
the whole idea of the program is targeted towards low-income seniors.
Right.
And other eligible veterans, and disabled
So
people.
low income.
So-
It's not hardship. In some cases,
Well-
it's not hardship.
In some cases, it is not hardship,
And
because
trying to do is
veterans,
they're trying to-
veterans who are 65 years of age,
Yeah.
can be making, $300,000 a year and become eligible for an exception on the trash. We could be,
Just,
all the
you know,
publicity here
it's-
could actually be opening up a bigger can of worms, where more people would be
Yeah, we
saying,
gotta
hey,
stay
I'm
out of
eligible
the,
for that.
yeah. Unfortunately, no matter what you do, you can't be 100% perfect, right?
No.
I mean,
Be all for
you wanna
everyone.
interview everybody individually, and
I don't
then
want.
that becomes arbitrary too.
We
Well,
we
I
can
think-
move on. I don't want to beat a dead
Yeah, no,
horse. but-
again, I think if we're going to do something, we should do it rather quickly, only because this is certainly going to be getting a lot more press. The people are now going to be saying, hey, like you, Bob, I'm eligible. Not that you're going to take advantage of it, but you would be eligible along with a lot of other people in the community who aren't taking advantage of it because they didn't know about it.
Yeah, but he wouldn't meet.
You know?
He wouldn't be eligible actually now, because if we actually execute
No,
this.
no,
his
under the
income
current
level will-
Well, that's what he's
program.
talking about.
Under the
That's why
current
we should
program,
make-
Oh,
you know?
okay, so
So what I'm concerned about right now is, in the interim time period, are we going to
Can we do it?
direct the
between-
administration not to entertain any exemptions until we clear this up, which will again light the fire under us to do something about it?
I second your motion.
I have just a suggestion at this point.
I guess, Greg, the one thing that I'd like to understand, or in the process of trying to close on this, if we go forward with the plan that would have brought things down to 5, and
Just 5.
meaning whatever,
Yeah, right.
a great reduction,
Mhm.
and then added to it, taking in the asset section real estate out of the
Assets.
of the
Real estate out of the assets, because I'd like to see some of the other assets. I do some people's taxes who don't show much income, and let me tell you, they have plenty of
You take that, is that something that's doable based on the information that we collect?
Yes, because the assessors are required to, when they grant that exemption, to have the assets also listed out at the same time.
So it's something we can get to, we're not trying to create something that we
No,
can't make.
it's required as part of the filing that's done.
Can I ask Mr. Balagonis a question?
Yeah, of course.
Which one do you recommend, Greg?
The strict interpretation under the statute,
And that's number 1.
that's correct. I mean, I think that's the best way. If the board wants to make an exemption for assets, that's your right, but I do think that the income is critical in terms of establishing that.
Is there a way of calculating the impact if we reduce the home as an asset? Or-
I don't have that right now, but I'm sure the assessors can glean out that information on the 88.
Does the board think we need more time? I mean, if you agree with Mr. Balakonis' recommendation, can we just make a motion now?
No, we have to have a second reading.
We do.
It's a policy, yeah.
Okay.
We'll have a formal vote.
Well, we're gonna need a
Motion
first reading
prepared.
first.
Correct, first
Need a first
motion.
reading, then a second
First,
reading.
first reading and then the second reading.
But in the meantime, I think any applications for exemption under the trash policy should be held in abeyance until the board finalizes its position on the policy.
Because we really don't have a documented policy right now.
We do. We actually do.
You want to make a motion to that, Mr. O'Leary?
So moved. You have
Well,
that?
you're
Is that new?
second.
Oh, it's new?
Yeah, no, we actually have a copy of the 2002 policy. We went ahead and dug it up and dusted it off and found it, and it's quite detailed, and we'll give you a copy of that when the board goes ahead
I'd
and
like to
reads
see
it.
that.
Did you get that motion? The motion on the floor is to,
To instruct the administration to hold all requests for exemptions under the trash, whatever is it called?
Exemption.
Trash exemption policy in abeyance until the board makes a final determination as to what the policy is going forward.
Second.
motion by Mr. O'Leary,
was-
second by Mr. Prisco.
New exemptions, right?
Any new exemptions?
Any requests for new exemptions, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Unanimous. So the next step will be to,
Put it in the form of a policy and have it before you for your next
for first
meeting.
reading and.
Correct.
And then and then as far as the effective date of it, I mean, we'll have
That's-
to work on that. And then also the notification of those people who are currently eligible and will be rendered ineligible. Some official correspondence will have to go out as far in advance as possible
Mhm.
to allow them the opportunity to address it.
Okay, moving along, discuss the Andover intermunicipal water agreement. We're gonna pass over that tonight, or?
Correct.
Gets us to the town administrator's report.
Good evening.
I'll just say the reason for, this,
It's almost morning, so.
the reason for passing over the Andover intermunicipal water department is our last proposal's been sent to them, and we haven't, they haven't responded yet, so there's nothing to talk about. Okay,
Just want to acknowledge that we received all of the contract documents in from the MSBA on the high school, middle school project. All of the documents are required to be signed and returned to them within 14 days or no later than September 17th. We have to get an opinion from council. Shouldn't be a problem. We'll get everything done in place for that day. One of the other things that we put in the packet was to open a discussion and a dialogue about possible refinancing of some of the town's long-term debt. The town's fiscal advisor routinely monitors our debt position, and as part of the modeling that they do, they came back to us with a recommendation that we look to finance some debt going back 2003 and 2005. And Liz, Bob, myself did have a telephone conference call, and Mary Ann with our fiscal advisor. And at that time, it was ruled out that we would really have a significant savings in refinancing the 2005 debt. But if we looked at some of our 2003 debt, and we looked at the long-term savings over a period of years, we have a potential of saving some significant dollars. And in terms of what it means, there was some elementary school debt, non-exempt debt that would have been issued permanent financing in December of 2003. The amount of principal and interest that we have if we do nothing between now and June of 2024 is $3,524,000. Excuse me, $3,751,000. We have an opportunity, if we proceed with refinancing and based upon favorable interest rates, which are out there right now, we're calculating a savings of $227,000. So these are savings that will go directly to the taxpayers by refinancing. It takes into consideration the costs of going forward and doing a bond issue, receiving legal opinion, all the work that's necessary to do this, and actually going out to bid on the market. So that this is a best estimate of what we see for potential savings. The time to do this is now because interest rates are extremely low, and our fiscal advisor recommends that we move forward on it. So if we were to go forward on refinancing the 2003 debt, we're looking at a potential savings upwards of $227,000 between now and the end of the issuance, which is June of 2024. So it's something that we would recommend. What are the annual savings? They range somewhere between $21,300 and $17,267 going forward. So those costs are apportioned over a period of time, and it's not an insignificant amount of money. I would recommend that the board, if there are any questions, we address those now, but we move forward in terms of instructing our fiscal advisor to prepare a package and get this thing out to bid as quickly as possible.
You want a motion from us?
We don't need a motion. What I'm looking for is, you will have an opportunity to approve or disapprove the bids that are received on this
Yeah,
debt.
sure.
And at that time, if obviously it's not in our interest to refinance because rates have somehow taken a turn for the worst, then we will not accept those bids, and the board will be provided with a recommendation to not accept those and maintain the status quo.
And of course, if interest rates hold up like the Fed's saying for the next 2 years, we might revisit the 2005 debt.
Right. And the 2005 debt is all encompassing. There are a number of different items that are included in it. And again, it's based upon a formula that our fiscal advisor puts together, and he'll watch that going forward.
Very good.
Questions?
I just remind the board that on the school project, if it goes through by bonding, the bulk of the money almost immediately, there's about a little over $9 million savings in interest based on gambling and waiting for the project to end before we convert it to bonds. Next, Craig.
Next is, we're ready to proceed with our document management study. We have a needs study kickoff session coming this Thursday. We've entered into a contract with a company called General Code Publishers. They're from Rochester, New York, and if you look at your green code book, which incorporates your bylaws and such, those are the people that provide it with us, provide that service. The study will look at hardware, software, and policy recommendations that we put in place to digitize all of the town's paper records. And from this initial meeting schedule, we will be meeting with each department within the next week to 10 days. I think it's critical that we get this project going and get it underway. In terms of what the cost is $25,000. We'll have additional recommendations to incorporate those into a capital plan for June town meeting. That is our goal. It remains to be seen whether we would divide that project up over a period of years. Potentially, we would want to spread out that cost over 3 years.
Do we plan on talking to the school department about that too?
We will have a discussion with them. At this time, they're not included in the document management study, but we certainly can address that going forward. And I'll speak with Superintendent Willis about it. Questions about that at all? It's time. As
It
you
is
can
time.
imagine.
Past time.
And I think one of the critical things is we really need policies in place,
Yeah, it's great.
because without the policies in place, this stuff doesn't work.
And then when we do the budgets for FY 2013, the money associated with this operation will be included to,
We're gonna initially request it in terms of capital, and I know when it was done in Reading, they spread it over a period of 3 years. We've already had some discussions, and one of the things we'll be talking about is which departments would participate in phase 1 or later phases. But to me, it makes some sense to probably start small and doing a phased-in implementation schedule versus doing it throughout the community. See how it works initially with several key departments, and then adapt and make changes to have it in place for the second and third year of our study.
doing that under capital?
Yeah, we do it as part of the capital improvement plan. One of the things that we've done is, going forward, we require any and all printer and copy machines. They will all be done through IT. IT will establish standards that when out buying equipment that's not compatible with the needs of our digital document study. It's really critical that we make sure that anything that we purchase in the